Hey guys, it's Johnny and welcome to episode 124 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. Today I'm here with Michael Klepacz from Warsaw, Poland. We are here in Poland. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
So where are you actually from originally?
I was originally born in Toledo, Ohio.
Nice. Yeah. And we are now in Warsaw.
Yeah,
I like
Warsaw, as they call it.
So Michael how are you involved with Natural Materials, the hemp company?
I'm the owner.
The owner. He's the owner of a hemp company that is somehow based in Poland, but you sell to the US?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I met, you know, tell everyone how we met?
Yeah, last night we were at basically like an entrepreneurial get together that we have every month in Warsaw called Next Vav. And it's about just bringing young minds and new businesses together to create some synergy here, get some stuff done.
So before last night, I was actually kind of leaning towards moving to Kraków next year when I'm going to spend the summer, thinking, okay, like there's a big debate, right? I think everyone in Poland either loves Warsaw or they love Kraków, and they usually kind of hate the other. What side are you on?
You know, I'm kind of more towards the Kraków side. I hope that my Warsaw friends don't hear that, but I find the bigger the city, like the kind of the less charming it is, because it becomes a little bit rat race and impersonal. Technically, Warsaw is a cleaner city, whereas Krakow has a bit more pollution. But the whole vibe between Warsaw versus Krakow comes down to Krakow used to be the capital. So now that Warsaw is the capital, they kind of butt heads like Ohio versus Michigan football game.
But what's funny is, at least in most of the US, like nobody cares what the capital is. Like nobody's excited that you're from Washington, D.C. because it's the capital. Or
Right.
No one's excited that you live in Sacramento, California instead of San Francisco or LA or San Diego, which are all three better cities than the capital.
Yeah, Sac is pretty boring as far as cities go when you consider all the amazing places in Cali.
What is the capital of Ohio?
It's actually Columbus, and there's also nothing special about it.
So I wonder what it is about Europe that the capital is actually normally kind of it's definitely the place that people go to most. So like whenever, let's say you go to Austria, you're going to go to Vienna. You know, if you go to Hungary, you're going to go to Budapest. So why do you think it is that in Europe, the capitals are so important?
I don't know. I mean, for the most part, when you look at it, these cities are so old, you know what I mean? Whereas like the US is like not even 300 years old yet. And that's like a catnap for cities like Warsaw that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. And they're all around like major rivers and stuff. And it all, like if you follow like the old trade routes and stuff. And I think people are just kind of traditionalists here. So
I also feel like the capitals get a lot more funding, a lot more money, especially to build cool stuff. So like in Sacramento, there's nothing really cool, right? I guess you can some of the government buildings, but nobody cares because they're not old. They're not, there's no history really. But here, or pretty much in all of Europe, the capitals will have these, 700-year-old cathedrals and palaces, and you just don't have that in the US.
Yeah, it's totally true. And then you have places like Warsaw that were like 85% destroyed during the war, and it was like the Old Town and Nowy Świat and Stare Miasto were literally like redesigned from paintings and old architectural drawings from students in like the 1950s and stuff.
I've heard that they literally had to go to the art school and ask the students who've used these squares as just practice paintings. Like they weren't even trying to draw all these places. That was just like a homework assignment saying, okay, now you have to go to the square and draw these buildings. And it was so detailed that they were able to completely recreate all of these houses, all of these temples and buildings.
Yeah, it's totally opposite, where like Krakow was the center of the general government in World War II for Hitler. So that city was basically completely untouched, and totally preserved from its like original form. And you can totally feel it while you're there, like the kind of medieval, kind of gothic sort of vibe.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like Krakow the most is you could feel that the history, and it's so beautiful, but not just this like layer of paint beauty. It's like a deep, authentic beauty.
Right.
And I feel bad because it's not Warsaw's fault. fault. You know, it's if anything, it's Hitler's fault. You know, Warsaw didn't want to get bombed and have to rebuild, and I'd rather have it be redone and not authentic than not exist. So it's kind of one of those catch-22s. Like, you know, would we rather have a royal palace and you know, these old buildings that are remanufactured to look old, or would we just not have them at all?
I think there's generally, after a couple of years of living here, I find that there's like two schools of thought in Warsaw. I don't know if you had a chance to go to the Warsaw Uprising Museum yet.
Not yet.
Super cool place. There's two schools of thought. And you'll get to see that here in a couple of days on August 1st at 5 p.m. The entire city will go silent for 1 minute to commemorate the beginning of the Warsaw Uprising. I got like goosebumps just thinking about it. It's super, super cool. So I recommend being in this kind of central park behind Nowy Świat, where they have the unknown soldier tomb, and like that's where it all kind of kicks off. Okay. And the school of thought is there are certain people who find the uprisers as heroes, and there are certain people who find the uprisers as fools, basically. So it was foolish to uprise and get the city destroyed, or it was heroic to uprise and fight for what you believe in.
Oh, that's why the city got destroyed, is because of the uprising.
Yeah. So the uprising happened, and the Germans retreated, and Hitler just gave the order to just carpet bomb the city.
That's so crazy, man.
Yeah.
Man. You know, like, even though, like, when we go on Facebook nowadays or Twitter, it seems like the world is so messed up. There's so many bombings everywhere. There's so many shootings and mass killings that we think the world is so messed up. But in fact, this is actually the safest time in the history of mankind to live.
I agree. As a veteran myself, I'm happy to be alive right now.
Yeah. So what did you serve in?
I was in the Air Force.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And did you get to travel a lot for that?
Honestly, I joined to travel, and I was forbidden to travel.
Why is that?
The shop that I worked in, we only had 2 of them in the entire country that were active duty. And within that shop, there were only 2 people who had my job working on the aircraft. So our job was basically to overhaul and inspect cargo planes. And it was literally at Travis Air Force Base, California only.
Well, at least you got to go to California, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I lived in Cali for about 6 years total.
So what brings you to Poland or to Warsaw?
Oh man, the short story is after I got out of the Air Force, I wanted to go to school for the GI Bill because I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, right? And my mom jokingly said to me one day, "Why don't you go work at Cedar Point, which is or was one of the world's largest amusement parks? You'll meet a Polish girl." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's totally true. There's always like European chicks working on the work and travel program at Cedar Point." And so I got a job at Cedar Point as a lifeguard, and then I became a team leader over there and met a Polish girl. That's back.
So funny. Okay, so a little context. Is your family Polish?
Yeah, by blood, I'm 100% Polish.
Okay.
So I've always wanted to come here and visit and vacation, but me and my mom were going to come here when I graduated high school just for a vacation, but instead I went to boot camp, Okay,
and Cedar Point, is that like an amusement park or what is that?
Yeah, they have 18 roller coasters and stuff, and most of them were record breakers. It's in Sandusky, Ohio.
So you met a nice Polish girl that was just there for the summer, or?
Yeah, tons of them, but one in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, well, let's move to Poland.
Yeah, kind of. A bunch of them were like, dude, you got to come to Poland. You got to teach English. You'll really like it. And so I came over here for 6 months. I was teaching English and hanging out. And then in 2009 is when the whole stock market crashed and stuff. And they finally had redone the GI Bill. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go back and try to get into a good school. We'll stay in a relationship, whatever. And it ended up not working out. I had gone through some things where I just completely changed the direction in life I wanted to go. I went from wanting to be a chiropractor to wanting to be an organic farmer. And I was like, I've completely did a 180 in that 1 year period. And then I actually started dating one of my English students that I met here while I was in Warsaw in 2008, 2009. And we're actually still together. It's been 6 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I've heard, I don't know if this is a rumor or not, but they say that if you move to Poland, you will end up having a girlfriend, whether you like her or not.
Yeah, my friend, so Drew, who you met last night, that's kind of what happened to him. He moved here, and it's just, whether you're in Ukraine or Poland, you can throw a rock in any direction and just hit a gorgeous girl. It's ridiculous, and they're very I don't know. I don't know how to describe Polish chicks, but they're definitely worth the catch, I think.
Yeah, well, they're super nice, super down to earth.
Yeah,
I would say the
very.
biggest difference between dating a Polish girl and an American girl is they don't play. I don't know about like in a relationship, right? But just like when you first meet them, they're just very upfront and down to earth with you. So if they like you, they'll let you know. If they don't like you, they'll let you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I respect that so much. You know, I don't think it's, you know, either the guys or the girls' faults that the way, you know, things are the way they are in the US when it comes to dating.
Right.
But it fuels the fire where, you know, if a guy plays a game, then the girl has to play a game. Then the
Right.
girl plays a game and the guy has to play a game. And it just becomes this crazy thing where, you know, in reality, I think everyone just wants to find love. Everyone wants a partner. Everybody wants somebody to watch movies with, to eat with, to sleep with, to be with.
Netflix and chill.
Yeah. And it just, in the US and lots of places in the world, you know, London for sure. I'm sure, you know, in most, you know, definitely in Sydney, a lot of the bigger cities, I would say, it's like this game that both sides are playing. And in Poland, it feels like there's no game. It's like you can go up to a girl at a bar and say, "Hi, can I buy you a drink?" And in the US, she'll probably be like, "Okay, take 4 more," and then be like, "Okay, bye." And you'd be like, why did I just spend $47 on drinks? And if she wasn't interested, why didn't she say anything? And then on her point of view, which I also understand, is why should I talk to this guy that I'm not interested in? Like, why do I owe him something just because he bought me a drink?
Right.
While in Poland, what's nice is you can say, "Hi, can I buy you a drink?" And if she's not interested, she'll just say like, "Oh, no, thank you." And then the guy will be like, "Okay, you know,
Yep.
thanks for letting me know." And if she does take the drink, it doesn't mean that she wants to be with you, but it means that she's at least someone interested and she's going to want to talk to you for at least that, you know, the 5 minutes it takes to have that drink.
Right. Yeah, I think I always kind of joke with my Polish friends that right now the vibe that I feel with like the people and the culture and the way that things are moving, it's very not the style, but the culture is very like 1990s, early 2000s here. Whereas like how I felt in California as far as the people acted, in Ohio as far as the people acted. And you're right, where, you know, 10 years ago, I feel like the dating scene, it wasn't about a bunch of head games and stuff like that. And then here, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at feminists or whatever. I kind of feel like Bernie Sanders, where I sort of am a feminist myself, but I feel like there's the kind of woman who wants to prove that she's like good enough to do stuff for herself, and then there's the kind of person who knows that they can do stuff, but they still want, you know, help. So like here, it's still what's the word? You know, chivalry. It exists here still. Men are still opening doors for women, and women are still saying thank you. I mean, but people in Poland are so nice that they're basically opening doors for everybody anyways in general. But
yeah. And, you know, that's the other thing I like about Poland is people are like just genuinely very nice. Like even the guys, which I didn't expect, because in my mind, Polish guys were, you know, like these hardcore, you know, like Soviet type guys, right? Which are completely wrong because my history is bad. But I envisioned it like the UFC fighter Krzysztof Sawinski, the Polish experiment. This, you know, this big, bald, muscular guy, tattoos. You know, it's kind of badass. And I'm sure that, you know, they still kind of exist, especially here on the Praga side of Warsaw.
right.
But in general, just Polish guys are just really nice guys.
Yeah, I think most of those guys become bouncers for bars, and I've literally seen some people physically bounced out of bars, like a basketball just hit the floor kind of thing. They don't mess around, the bouncers here. So
Yeah, okay, I like it. But there's also no reason to, because there's like a million bars, and the average drink price here is what, like $2?
oh my god, I know. You can get drunk here so cheap. And the one thing that I find strange, but also like a business opportunity, is there's not like the pop dispenser where you can like press one button for soda water, one button for Sprite. Instead, you'll see people walking around with a Jack and Coke and half a bottle of Coke.
So the weirdest thing is, if you get a shot of vodka on its own, it's like $1.25 maybe.
Yeah.
But then if you want a vodka soda, it's now $5.
Yeah.
Because you have to buy a bottle of soda and a shot of vodka.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing to me.
Yeah. So one of these days, maybe I'll start that soda pop gun company, and then I'll revolutionize the speed and efficiency in which they serve drinks here. We'll see.
I like it. And, you know, speaking of that, there are so many business opportunities in Poland, which is weird because it's one of those things where, so yesterday at the meetup, the next Warsaw meetup, it was called Startup Pitching, where they had a bunch of startup founders based in Warsaw or who are currently in Poland, I guess, pitch their ideas and get, either, I don't know, I guess just get feedback, see if anyone's interested in trying their products, things like that. And one of the girls, she had a business that is like a customizable kids book. I don't remember the name of it, but I asked her the question saying, why are you trying to go into the, because her question was, how can we get into the US market? And my question to her was, why do you want to go in the US market? There are 10 competitors that do customized kids books already in the US, but probably nobody is doing it in Poland or even the rest of Europe. Why not just take over Europe? Why try to compete with the big boys and 10 other people in the US?
I don't know. I think a lot of people are ignorant to how tough things are to actually scale. You know what I mean? Whereas that's like my question to her was, so what languages are these available in? And right now I know it's Polish and English. So it makes sense to completely take over the Polish market. It makes sense to kind of expand from there. She mentioned England and stuff, and that's cool. And to stay within the European Union, there's tons of cultures, tons of opportunities. And, I don't know if they have a Swedish version of this or a Norwegian version of this or a German version of this, but there could be. Whereas in the US, I feel like you're kind of bringing water to the ocean.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't even have kids, but I've heard like a podcast interview with someone who does the exact same business. And then I did a quick Google search, and I was like, there's at least 10 on the first page of people that do the exact same thing. So if I was her, I would, even if I wanted to keep it in English, I think there's two ways to do it. You can either translate it into every language. You can do Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, everything. Or you can keep it in English and market it in Europe saying this is a way where your kids can also learn English. And then maybe have the sales page be in the other language, so that the parents can kind of understand it a little bit easier. But there's so many opportunities here, right?
I think Poland, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but Poland is one of the least developed countries in the European Union right now. So according to EU law, Poland has to get the seed money. So there's literally billions and billions of euros being invested into, Poland every single year. And so if you have a solid business plan and you want to get 100,000 euro to start a business and you have 30,000 euro yourself, you can, get that seed money. And
oh, that's incredible. I didn't know that. Is that why the startup scene here is so thriving?
I don't know. If you look at the startup scene in general in Poland, it's becoming exponentially bigger every single year. Like European people, from what I've found, are very risk averse, whereas Americans, if you didn't fail, you didn't try. Failure is part of learning, whereas here, if you fail, you should just go get a job.
And I think it was Mark Cuban that said this, I think it was Mark Cuban. He said, you only have to succeed once in business. And it's so true, because in other things, I guess if you keep failing, maybe you're kind of a failure, right? But if you are a business owner and you fail 7 businesses, you stay afloat, your 8th one works and takes off, nobody cares about the first 7.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you, in relationships, sometimes you're not remembered for all the good things you've done, but you remember for that one bad thing. But in business, it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, which is why business is probably easier than relationships.
Yeah.
I like it. So tell me about your business. Why did you start it here in Poland, or do you just happen to be here now?
My whole entrepreneurship process has kind of it's been a long thing coming. It happened for me because, and I'm going to plug something here. In 2010, I was going to Burning Man, and I was kind of spaced out at Burning Man, and I realized everybody who was there were either super dirt poor minimalists or self-made people who were entrepreneurs, and they could do what they wanted when they wanted it, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I had started working on a patent, and a year later, a friend of mine contacted me who was going to school at Purdue, and she said, hey, there's this program here called the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disabilities, EBV for short. So I'm 40% disabled veteran. And so it had turned out that they had 10 different locations at Syracuse, Purdue, UCLA, etc. And so I applied and I was accepted with my my business plan for the patent, all that stuff got accepted. And so I found myself just thrown into this entrepreneurial program at UCLA. And it was super hardcore. It was a couple of months online school, and then for a week and a half, 12 hours a day, no days off, straight up boot camp. And since then I've gone to school for my bachelor's in business and entrepreneurship, and I'm working on a master's in virtual environment, making money online. And I can tell you, I learned more at UCLA in the EBV program in just a few months in such a condensed version that I have across like the years of going to business school here. And so it's just, I wanted to start a business that I wasn't a slave to. You know what I mean? I'm familiar with all the different kinds of business models that are available today. So when I got done with UCLA, I had one product, which was the patent, and I was advised to get a few products together because if people are looking for my product, then maybe you should start a web store that sells products that go along with it. So then I started a little e-commerce shop in 2011, and I've just kind of been growing on things since, and now I have a factory.
That's a really, really cool story. I also agree, like business school or just school in general now, it's like this long drawn out process where what are we actually taking from it? Besides the actual experience of being away at college, away from our parents, and having to live on our own, I think we learn more from that than we do from the actual classes. Things like this boot camp that you took, or even if you just took a crash course online on your own, read books, took a program, took a seminar or something. I think we really learn more from that, and also just doing it than we do in 4 years of school.
Yeah, I think it was cool for me because, I had gone from working in government jobs and working as managers for different companies. And so I had, quote unquote, all of this life experience when I got to college, right? And I was sitting in a room with people who were fresh out of high school, didn't know anything about life. We're still living with their parents. That's the culture here in Warsaw. And they're hearing all this really good information, but they have no way to process it and apply it to the world. Whereas I'm hearing a lecturer say something and I'm like, I guess I should have done that back then. And I can relate to some of the things that they're saying. But you're right. Like small entrepreneurial business by Katz and Green was a great book. The New Business Road Test was a good book. Really, when you go to a college lecture, it's essentially a watered down book. That's basically what it is. You have 30 hours of reviewing a couple of different books and having conversations with smart people and networking opportunities. That's basically what it comes down to. When it comes down to, like, a lecture will never teach you, this is how you start a business in Poland from A to Z. This is what kind of accounting principles you'll have to follow. Here's how you can find business partners and materials for manufacturing or loans. They don't help you with that kind of stuff. And that's why, like, LinkedIn is great because you can get with groups of entrepreneurs and network.
So I like how you kind of broke down school as a watered down book, because when I think about it, I've never heard of it that way, but when I think about it, it's true, because the professor is assigning you a book and they're saying, okay, today we're going to read these 2 chapters and we're going to talk about it and do a quiz on it. Next week, we read these 2 chapters, we're going to talk about it, do a quiz on it. And in a sense, I guess, we would be having a great conversation, with people who know experts about it. But in reality, especially with business, are these people experts? The other students are definitely not experts. The professor is probably not an expert himself, or herself, or they wouldn't be teaching, unless there's that rare case of somebody who built a business, sold it, and said, now I want to teach, which I think is awesome. And I think that's actually what I want to do if I ever retire. But most of them never ran a business. And if they did, maybe it was in the 80s or 70s, and it's just not applicable anymore. And also the books that they're giving us are also from the 80s or 70s and definitely not applicable either.
I think it was cool. The school that I'm going to is Kozminski, and it was actually, it didn't cost me a thing. It's a private university, and for a Polish person, it's rather expensive. But for me, the GI Bill paid for it, so I actually got paid to go there, which was awesome. And that's how I came up with some seed money for my business and stuff. But at Kozminski, they have professors who are actually working. Like some of them used to work for the International Monetary Fund, or like we have millionaire professors that basically teach for fun. And in some cases, I feel like they're actually headhunting. Like they are millionaires and they're doing their own thing, but they're also kind of like looking for the next talent You know?
I like that a lot. I think that's the way it should be, where it's a founder of a company or CEO of a company, and they just happen to do this on the side. Maybe they can have like teachers assistants that kind of lead most of the kind of boring stuff, do all the grading, and they can kind of just come in and share their knowledge, get to know some of the students, mentor some of them, and then, basically swoop some of them up after they graduate and work for them.
Yeah, I think the system of how professors like work here in Poland and Europe in general, it's different than in the States, where if you work for a university in the States, you work there full time. That's all you do. Whereas, and you're expected to write so many papers per year. You're expected to teach. You're expected to do a bunch of other things within the university. Whereas at Kosminski, they might only be there a few hours a week. You know what I mean? Like they're there just to teach their class, and then they go back and they do their day to day.
I think that's awesome because that brings so much more real world experience. I just listened to a podcast this morning about Mormons, and what was really interesting to me about it was that their pastors are not full-time pastors of the church. They are like dentists or like business people, and they just volunteer there, on Sundays and teach for those couple hours, and then they go home back to the normal job. So they're able to bring their perspective of real life, of just, what people do day to day, not as a full-time pastor who, is probably still living in like the 1800s. And also they don't do it as a career. They literally just do it for a few years, and then there's someone else. So not that I've been to Mormon church or anything, but this kind of sounds like, to me, it sounds like there's so many better ways of learning, from and not having that be a full-time thing, because there's almost no incentive for a professor to want you to make more money than them, to excel better. They just want to do kind of whatever they need to get you to pass a test. While if it's a CEO of a company or a founder of a company, they have that drive, that hunger. And also they want to cultivate the best possible talent pool as well.
Yeah, I think the learning scene nowadays is totally different. Whereas, I don't know how you learned what you learned, but for sure it was probably, and I can guess it's meeting professionals that are doing what you want to do, reading books that maybe they wrote, or in general different topics. I hung out on lynda.com a lot, or Udemy, or downloading torrents of lynda.com, which I don't recommend people do officially, with a wink. But if you're hungry for the information, you're going to be able to find it. And if you're the kind of person who can be self-taught, then you're the kind of person who can do anything.
So my story, very, very similar. I met a guy named Anton who was doing what I wanted to do. He was starting these e-commerce stores. They're Dropship based. He had a course, which I actually paid for, and I didn't torrent it. But I would say the biggest benefit of actually paying for something, there's two benefits. One is you get access to their private member forums. And I really believe that these communities, especially if it's a good one, this is more valuable than the actual course itself, because the information you can kind of find everywhere. People say, the downside of that is the information is really kind of scattered, right? So it might be outdated, or it might be kind of regurgitated from someone else, or it might be like bits and pieces that you have to figure out. While in a course, it's updated, it's from like A to Z, but more importantly, you get the community of other people who are doing it, and people that are serious about it. Because if someone pays $1,000 or $2,000 to join a course, they're going to be serious about it, and they're going to know that you're serious. So they're going to take their time to really help you. One of the reasons why I completely stopped answering, like dropshipping related questions on public forums and Facebook groups is none of the people are serious, and I used to give people the benefit of the doubt, like, okay, maybe they really want to learn, maybe they really want to know, and they just can't afford a course. But 100% of the time, I've wasted my time answering people's questions and having them either come back with 20 more unrelated questions, or just they never get started, or they find excuses why it doesn't work. And it just drives me crazy.
Well, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one. You're right. There are so many different kinds of personalities in the world, and I'm glad that you realize that you're probably like wasting your time on the keyboard generals who are just, there are people who want to do, and there are people who don't want to do, and then there are people who actually do. You know what I mean? And there's so many people who are always looking on the other side of the fence at what they think your lifestyle is, or how much effort they think something could be. So one of somebody that I know I won't mention a name, said, "Oh yeah, I spent like $500 on this course, and it taught me all about like if I have my own website with backlinks, then I can make money from it and stuff." And I'm like, you can, but it's not as easy as you're portraying to me. Like you're not able just to put a web page up with a couple of backlinks, and with Google's ever-changing algorithms, like get traffic and get interest. I'm like, you have to blog daily or weekly. You have to add value. You have to create synergy. You have to do all this stuff. It's not just paying $400 for some magic program, learning some of the information, not necessarily processing the information, thinking you know what you're doing and attempting to do what they explained, and then all of a sudden making $800 next week. It's just not real.
Yeah, especially with like SEO and private blog networks with backlinks and stuff. It's so complicated. And actually, the reason why I don't like doing that stuff at all, and I don't even mess with any kind of black hat or gray hat SEO, is Google is way smarter than all of us, and they're always going to change. And these people, they might kind of make some money for a bit, and then they get slapped by Google. They get their accounts shut down forever. It's to me, it's ridiculous. The things I don't like about like those courses that I'm guessing the one that your friend took is they kind of teach you these kind of basics, and then they're like, okay, well now you need backlinks. You can buy our backlinks, a private blog network service for this amount of money, and it's this huge upsell. Whenever I take a course, I always look to see if there's upsells before I buy the course, because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna spend $1,000 on this course, how much more do I need to spend afterwards? And what I really liked about, I think I just got lucky because I've only taken one course, and he's like, okay, it's $1,000, that's it. And there's no upsells, there's nothing else. You pay like your domain fee or hosting fee. And the thing about what we were saying earlier about like the three types of people, I really believe that you can be self-taught. You don't need to take a course. You don't need to go to school or go get a master's program. You can just read stuff online. You can read books, and there are a few people that could download a course and just be like, okay, I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna be good. I don't need a community. I don't need the updated version. I just need something. And I've met a few of them, but I have also met thousands more who just never do anything with it. While I would say with like, if someone's going to invest $1,000 into something, then they're going to be like, okay, I'm very serious about this. And their chances are going to be they're just always going to be higher, I think. So I actually announced on my blog yesterday, a kind of a partnership program. I'm looking for a bunch of people who I want to start stores with. So you probably don't know this, but I sold my last dropshipping store very recently, and which is one of the reasons why I'm able to just travel and not work this summer. But I know that money is gonna dry up, at some point. So I wanted to build some more stores. So I did the math, and I realized I'm like, okay, so I made around $2,000 to $3,000 a month in profit from the store, and I ran it for about 2.5 years. And then when I sold it, I got $60K for it kind of upfront. So I'm like, okay, if we do this, if I could replicate this, which I know I can, and I can run a store that makes $2 or $3 grand a month, run it for 12 months, and then sell it for 50 or 60K, that's 100K. And if I can do 10 of these, it's $1 million. So I thought, okay, why not get 10 people or maybe 5 people and do 2 stores each or something? I haven't decided yet. Get a couple people and just do this process together, split the money. So I just put up an announcement on my blog, johnnyfd.com, saying this is my plan. I'm not going to actually start yet because I still want to travel and just enjoy Europe. So I think I'm going to start in November. But I want to just kind of let everyone know what the type of person I'm looking for. So if they are not that person yet, they have 3 months to become that person. And I really believe that you can be anyone, and you can achieve any small goal in 3 months.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think our generation has learned, like the P90X thing. Like you can totally transform yourself in 90 days. But it's whether you want to do something. Whether you want to learn to play guitar, whether you want to completely change around some bad habits, whether you want to lose weight, whether you want to build mass or whatever, like you can break a habit in 3 weeks and you can become somebody else in 3 months.
Yeah, like 100%. Even if someone's listening to this a month from now, like it doesn't take that much time to learn something. Especially, so I basically in the course I said, in the blog post I said, I don't care if you've taken a course or if you learn it on your own. I just care that you're proficient today, and for e-commerce, it's very easy because I just want to know that you are making, at least a couple sales. You don't have to be profitable. You can have a million problems. That's kind of what I'm good at, is scaling that up, optimizing it, making it profitable, then selling it. But I don't want to teach someone how to resize an image. I don't want to teach someone how to, do these super basic things that the information is out there, So everyone listening to this, read that post, but basically get your act together, either for yourself, and you don't even have to partner with me. You could just do it on your own, or, have the skills where if you decide that you do want to partner with me, then you have that option. And I think that life is just about those options.
I mean, you definitely have to pave your own road. You know what I mean? Like there are people who expect the road to be laid before them. Like there's some kind of special being. Not that, I mean, we're all special beings, right? But if you're not willing to, well, I heard a story, and it basically came down to this. There was a guy who was very successful, and the guy, person who wanted to be successful, said, "Hey, how can I be successful too?" And the guy's like, come follow me. And they went out into the ocean, and the successful guy started drowning the guy who wanted to be successful. And the guy who wanted to be successful, who didn't drown, was like, "Hey, what the hell were you doing, man?" He's like, "You didn't want it bad enough. Like you didn't want to, like you had to fight for every breath of air. You know what I mean? You have to fight for everything." And that's true in a bunch of cases. But I think in 2016, the ability to go digital and to replicate yourself and to bring thousands of people, at least thousands of hits maybe from all over the country or all over the world, and convert 1 to 5% of those to sales. It makes it to where people, like, instead of spending $300,000 on a law degree and then becoming a partner and working 90 hours a week, you can sit around and do nothing if you wanted to, for a good portion of the day, and work your ass off for a couple hours. And if you're doing like FBA or something like that, or whatever. But for me, it's much better than the 9 to 5 will ever be.
So tell me about like your business. Why did you start this? Why are you passionate about it? Like, I'm just so curious why you chose this path.
For me, there's two kinds of people. You either embrace what your parents had, and you try to duplicate it, or you rebel against it. And that can be positive or negative in either direction. And I actually, I had a good growing up, but my mom was kind of the starving artist type. Where she literally was an artist, a florist, a hairstylist, and she made good money. And then my dad had like the stable government job. So that was cool. But I just wanted to do something that was going to stir things up a bit, and a couple of years ago, I was trying to make my dad into a natural smoker. And so I introduced him to Hemp wick because my buddy had become a general manager of a few head shops in her hometown. And so, he thought it was a silly idea. And then I got this entrepreneurial bug. And then with this factory, we started it because the patent that I was working on, it didn't work out at all. I ended up fighting with the partner that I had. He screwed me over a bit, and now he's trying to sell a cheap Chinese version of it, and it's not selling at all.
What was the patent for?
It was basically a lighter holder that held hemp wick, and that so you could light it and use it with one hand. And so the whole business plan behind it was to get veterans to wrap the hemp wick and hire disabled veterans and to make it in America, make the molds in America and stuff. And he kind of, he was a financial advisor. So every penny counted. And so he just wanted to do it on the cheap. And I didn't want to give up my principles. So I just wanted to start a company that had all of my principles in it. And so we built machines to make these rolls, and we spent a couple of years trying to make the best hemp wick ever.
Can you tell us about what is natural smoking and what is hemp wick?
Hemp wick is, a lot of people in California will know, it's basically, it's natural hemp fiber, which is from the industrial kind, so it doesn't get you high. And then you dip it in beeswax, and then you can light it on fire and use that for smoking your bowl, or warming your vaporizer, or in my case, I take it to go camping because it's totally waterproof. and it's a great kindling.
But how do you light this wick?
I mean, you for me, I light a candle and then I use it if I'm smoking. But yeah, man, I mean, people literally light it with a lighter first, and then they light their bowls with it.
Okay, so instead of using the lighter to your bowl,
yeah,
which has the
flint powder and butane byproducts, etc.
Okay. So you bypass that by lighting this wick first, and then the wick becomes clean burning.
Yeah,
and then you light your joint with that.
Yeah. So this is like 20 feet, which can burn for about 2 hours total. So it's like good for like a pass around sesh kind of thing with your buddies or whatever.
Is it possible to use like what do you call those things, like where you like strike something together and have a little spark?
You know, I want to try it to like where if I can take some hemp wick and put it into like a light ball and light it with the flint. I had heard from a buddy of mine that it works, but I haven't actually tried it myself. And I'm not exactly the master outdoorsman fire builder myself, but for me, it's great. In Poland, it's super humid and it rains a lot. So to go camping and to have a waterproof fire starter, for me, it's awesome. I just take a foot of it, roll it into a ball, and that'll burn for like 2 minutes while I build a good fire around it.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
So I don't have to burn my arm hair trying to hold a big lighter while I'm trying to get some grass to set on fire or something. I can just light that on fire and
I like it. Okay. So in front of us, we have not only this hemp wick, but we also have a hemp-made belt.
And it's a guitar strap.
It's a guitar strap. Oh, nice. And is this a cat, like dog collar or a cat collar?
Yeah, dog collar.
It looks cool. I like it. So what, you guys are expanding then into different products?
Yeah, we made some waves in the hemp world, and we actually had companies start to approach us. So like anybody who's familiar with FBA, you're always looking for the factory, right? And so now we're the factory and people are coming up to us and they're asking, hey, can you make this? And so we had a customer of ours say, hey, the owner of our company is a vegan, and he wants a hemp guitar strap that's vegan friendly. Can you do it? And the answer was, hell yeah, we can do it. And then we figure out how to make it done. So that's my design. And then I outsource a professional company to actually make and manufacture here. And that's made down the street.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And so you have where do you get the hemp, like the raw materials from?
All of the hemp webbing that we buy is from Romania. So it's all grown in Romania. Hemp is actually grown in Poland, but for different purposes. The more south you are, the younger you can harvest the hemp, and it's better for fiber. Whereas up here we're more north, and it's better for like seed oil, hemp concrete, and like insulation and stuff. So you can legally grow hemp in Europe. Yeah. But not in the US.
No. It's so insane, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know like why hemp was illegal until I listened to Joe Rogan kind of rant about it for a few hours.
Yeah.
Do you know the story behind it?
I know various versions. It basically comes down to bad propaganda and racism,
So it was something like everybody, a lot of people smoked marijuana before, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, but 50 years ago, drugs were not this like stigmatized thing. It's kind of like, oh, you want to smoke some weed, smoke joint, it's fine. If you want to do some coke, it's fine. You're not hurting anyone. It's not any worse than alcohol. But then I think there was one guy, I'm trying to remember his name. I was just trying to look it up. He was the owner of a paper factory.
Yeah, I forget his name off the top of my head.
He had decided, he's like, you know what, this hemp material is going to take over my paper industry.
Right.
We have to do something about it. So he, had all this money because he was this big, this big shot financially. And they, basically all these things happened where they just decided, let's make marijuana illegal because only black people smoke it anyways. And let's make them look like they're, we're kind of like criminalizing this thing. And while we're doing it, let's also just, criminalize hemp, even though you can't smoke hemp.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think people who are the big shots, like this guy who owned the wood company, if I were that guy, I would have kept doing my wood company, and then I would have used my capital to get into the next big thing, which was hemp. I wouldn't have spent money trying to destroy a new opportunity. I would have embraced the opportunity and still done both, you know?
Okay, so I just looked it up. So it was during Hoover's presidency, this guy named Andrew Mellon was the treasurer of DuPont's primary investor. And his future nephew-in-law, Harry Aislinger, was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. So basically, they had these secret meetings with financial tycoons, and they're trying to figure out, okay, these guys are a threat to our billion-dollar enterprise. How can we take them down? So they knew they couldn't ban hemp because everybody used hemp at the time. It was kind of just like saying, like, we're gonna ban, coconut fiber. We're gonna ban,
Cotton.
wool. Yeah. So instead, they renamed the, I don't know what they used to call it, but they didn't call it marijuana. Marijuana
Cannabis.
was they probably called it cannabis. And everyone's like, yeah, we're not going to ban that. It's fine, So what they did was they used a obscure Mexican slang word called marijuana, which we all know now. But back then, nobody knew what it was. And they were like, they had all this journalism saying, like, let's ban marijuana. This, makes black people crazy. And they start raping white women. And it got passed. And all of a sudden, people realized, oh, crap, we just banned hemp fibers and cannabis.
Yeah, I think it's weird. But I mean, let's break it down. Marijuana, Marie Juan. That's about as Spanish as you get.
So either way, here's my question from the other side. Right? Is if hemp is as great as everybody's saying it is as materials, because it's supposed to be way stronger than cotton. What are some of the benefits of hemp?
The main benefits of hemp from an ecological standpoint is you plant it and forget it. It grows so quickly that weeds cannot proliferate in the field. It has the ability to kind of refurbish soil because it has a taproot. So it goes straight down. So when you harvest it in the fall, you can cut it and just leave it. And the taproots help to break up compacted soil, which is what happens when you run your tractor over the same field for years and years and years. It doesn't take any water and it doesn't take any nutrients to grow. But I mean, you can use nutrients to get it to grow better.
Why does it take water to grow?
Because it has the taproot, it has the ability to reach down as far as it needs to get enough water essentially to survive. So last year we had a pretty bad drought, and some of the hemp fields suffered, but I couldn't find any that died. So I was in Białystok on a harvest last year, and there were a few parts of the field that were higher, so they would be drier, that were about hip high. But then in some of the deeper portions that had better soil conditions, they were way over my head as usual, because they can get up to 15 feet high or more.
So from everything I've heard from pro hemp supporters, things I've read online, it seems like hemp really is this amazing material that we're just not using because of these stupid laws that really have nothing to do with anything else. Are there some potential downsides of hemp that people don't talk about? Because it almost seems like if it's so good to be true, like it really is such great material, has less of a ecological footprint, requires less water, is just better in every way. Like, why wouldn't laws change? Why wouldn't we use it? Or why wouldn't other countries just completely use it and just stop using paper?
That's a tough question. For any of my hempreneurs who hopefully are listening to this podcast, my thing is just to stop putting the cannabis leaf on everything. You know what I mean? Like fruit of the loom is not like putting a giant cotton ball, ink print on the t-shirt and saying cotton. You know what I mean? They're not trying to be activists about it. And people who are kind of over marketing the product, it's like what you said. If hemp was so damn good, I might accidentally own something that's hemp. It's like the first time you tried a wool sweater, or the first time you bought, nylon something or other. You put it on, you felt it, and you looked at the wash tag to see what the hell is this thing made out of? I've never felt this, right? And I think that's kind of what's going for hemp. You have people who are saying, hemp is great, hemp is sustainable, hemp is strong, and it's all of these things, and it's always been a part of human culture somewhere in the world, especially in China. But people are looking at it and they're like, you want me to spend $60 on a t-shirt that's made out of a material that I've never even accidentally owned, and you're just claiming that it's so great. So it's my goal to try to help get cotton and hemp more on the same playing field, where right now, because of subsidies and stuff, cotton's super cheap, hemp's pretty expensive. And the biggest thing is the processing of hemp. That's the downfall, is right now we don't have the best technologies in the world to make the best feeling fabrics. So like I have a t-shirt that's 45% organic cotton and 55% hemp, or vice versa, I forget. And I don't really like it. It's kind of itchy. It looks good, it feels good, it's stretchy. Because there's cotton in it. If it was a 100% hemp shirt, it would be like wearing a linen dress shirt. There's no give to it. Whereas my hat is a knitted hemp hat, and for me that feels good. I like it. It's breathable, it's warm, I can wear it on a hot day, I can wear it in the winter time. I like it. It's stretchy because it's knitted. But if you were to make something like our t-shirts out of hemp, just doesn't work.
Yeah, because I always imagine hemp being like a hemp shirt, being this like oversized, baggy, poncho looking thing. But you know what? Maybe it's just technology just isn't there yet, because I remember polyester being a terrible material growing up. You would laugh. It's itchy, it's uncomfortable. But now, the $40 North Face t-shirts that feel so good, or like the Nike active dry shirts. These are all made from materials like polyester, and they're amazing now. So yeah, I agree. It's just a lot of it is just scalability, keeping the prices down, having better technology. But things like this, this guitar strap, with the style color, these, I think it looks great. It feels really strong. And uses like this would be, I don't see why people would not use this material right now.
I completely agree. For me, when it comes to applications like this, like the guitar strap, it's not itchy, unlike because it's not, you're wearing it over your shoulder and stuff like that. And I just have it in the natural color so that it doesn't stain a sweaty guitarist, who's playing for an hour or something, because I always worry about colors running. And so that's why everything that we have is just natural material colors. But for me, it gets softer over time, and I built this thing to be able to hold a $5,000 guitar, some super antique like Les Paul from the 1960s or something, because I at one point was a musician, and so I'm just trying to build stuff that I can actually be proud of, and then also paying people a living wage for doing it.
I like that. And the natural color of these, this material is awesome already. So I almost feel like you don't need to dye it. So I just looked up what are the uses of hemp. It said including rope, clothes, food, paper, textiles, plastics, insulation, and biofuel. How do you make plastic out of hemp?
I know a guy in Germany who's making some really hemp plastics that are pretty cool. It is I'm not exactly sure how he does it, but I know that he says to me that in order to start a hemp plastic factory, they need to have 800 hectares of hemp near the factory, and they harvest all of it, and then somehow they pull out polymers from the hemp. And that's what makes the plastic portion. But then they're also embedding the natural fiber material into it and kind of making a hemp plastic composite.
So many crazy future uses. So you kind of mentioned that if someone wants to come to you and build a custom product, using hemp materials, what is that process like?
Pretty much, I just get an email and they say, can you do this? And the answer is always a tentative yes, because I don't believe in no. And then we go through the feasibility. So between the kind of materials that they'll want, it can or cannot be feasible. You know what I mean? The dog collars themselves were actually a challenge. So, I mean, we can talk about the dog collars, like, making the dog collars easy. You can go to Amazon and buy a 5-star dog collar and duplicate it. And, that's essentially what this is. This is the hemp version of one of the top selling Amazon dog collars. Only we've used metal parts instead of plastic. This is actually used for horses, so that we know that it's strong. And then the biggest challenge was actually finding good buckles, because buckles can be either super cheap and you get what you pay for, or they can be pretty expensive. And so that was the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is that a good dog owner, and I don't know if you've ever owned pets, some people, they might tie their dog down to the front yard with just a collar instead of a choke chain. And this is supposed to essentially protect the mailman from getting bit. You know what I mean? And so the idea is to build something with quality and to build something with strength.
But also keeping the price manageable. That's
true. Somebody, just because it's made out of hemp and just because it's super strong doesn't mean that somebody is willing to pay $30 for a dog collar when you can go buy a Kong dog collar on Amazon for $7.99 and it's going to work because it's Kong, So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is the minimum order quantity for something like this?
For the dog collars and stuff, we can do embroidering, or we can do the plain versions and stuff. And so for me, MOQ is, depending on if you want them embroidered or not, as little as 100 units. If you want them embroidered, 500 to 1,000, depending. But I mean, we do 3 different sizes for the dog collars. We got a 3/4 inch wide, 1 inch wide, and 1 1/4. So all the way down to the little purse dogs, all the way up to the mastiff, just huge 100-kilo dogs.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's say somebody ordered 100, right? And would you be able to ship it? What is the process like if you wanted to ship it to the US, to Amazon headquarters? Are there customs from Poland? How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, the cool part about Poland is it's within the European Union. So once we get the order, so we'll take 50% up front. And then that way, we can hold the order. We get all the materials, we get it made, we get it embroidered or whatever in a couple of weeks. And then upon shipment, we give them, usually we airship with UPS, because UPS's custom service is just phenomenal, so it can be from here to Ohio in less than 48 hours through customs and everything.
So what's the cost of shipping let's say 100 of these dog collars to Amazon in the US?
I'm not 100% sure. Usually we can, it mostly depends on how many kilos the boxes is, but usually to do an air shipment and stuff, or a couple, it depends if it's a couple boxes on a pallet, or if it depends if it's a couple of just individual boxes. Usually it's a couple $100.
Okay. So I guess financially, to make sense, somebody can, I guess they can test it to see if someone wants to buy it with this kind of a small order, and then they see it selling. They can say to you okay, this is selling, I need some more. What would the turnaround time be to make, let's say I ordered 100 of these, send them to Amazon, they started selling, and I say to you Michael, I need some more. How fast can you get me 1,000 pieces?
If we wanted to make 1,000 straps, usually the biggest part is actually getting the materials from Romania. So we have a pretty good relationship with them now. So by the time if we don't have the material on hand, so let's just say we're completely out of stock, it might take up to 2 to 3 weeks just to get the materials for making the strap itself. The buckles, depending on the application, could, if they wanted a custom colored buckle or something, it could take up to 5 weeks even to get and this is real manufacturing, right? So this is what you won't hear manufacturers say normally, the truth, right? So it could take up to 5 weeks just to get the buckles from YKK or whatever factory. But then actually assembling 1,000 of them, less than a week.
That's really cool. So I'm gonna give everyone a 6-figure business tip right now. If you guys are doing FBA, if you're looking to it, looking for products, go on Amazon right now and look for things that are selling super well in pretty much any category, and then ask yourself, can this be made out of hemp? And if it can, contact Michael and put down the 50% deposit, test it with a couple hundred units, and then if it works out, then start worrying about scalability, profit. Because I'm assuming that if someone orders 1,000 units, the price per unit is gonna be a lot less than 100 units, right?
Yeah. It's that good old economy of scale. The more you order, the more material I'm able to order. You know what I mean? So, like on these colored buckles, if you were just a regular person and you decided, hey, I want to start a dog collar company, and you got a hold of YKK, but you wanted red buckles, you have to order like 4,000 buckles minimum, before you can even start up. So as a factory, a lot of our money is held up in stuff sitting on the shelf. So we have buckles laying around. We have giant rolls of fabric and materials, and I can show you a nice picture of hemp. We have literally 1 ton of hemp sitting in the corner of our factory where we make the hemp wick.
That's crazy. And what's actually really cool is this gives people an excuse to expense a trip to Poland. So if you guys are serious about manufacturing, instead of going to China, which nobody wants to go to, it's a pain in the ass, it sucks, it's the language problems, it just sucks.
I haven't had the pleasure.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I never got into FBA or into manufacturing is because I just don't want to go to China. I don't like the food. I don't like the culture. I don't like the business. I don't like the rudeness. I don't like the, slave labor of people working for, 15 hours a day for peanuts. Right. So the fact that you are really taking care of your employees, you had mentioned that you pay them way more than standard minimum wage, right?
Oh yeah. The guys who make the hemp wick, for example, so let's just say somebody working at McDonald's in the city center, and how expensive it can be here. So you need like 2,000 zloty a month just to have an apartment, and then a couple hundred zloty for food, etc. People who are working at Zara or American Eagle at the mall here, they're making like 8 to 10 zloty an hour. So they'll work 8 hours a day or less, and
this isn't $8 to $10 an hour. This is zloty, which is 4 to 1. So they're making $2 an hour.
Yeah, essentially $2 an hour. And with our guys, so that's like 16 hours a day, or $16 a day if you were to convert it to dollars. Whereas our guys working in the factory, and I'm not talking about like they're not sweating, like they're sitting on their headphones listening to music. Like we have one guy, he was a blogger for metal bands, right? And so he would review music while he was working, and then go home and write blog posts about the music that he would just listen to that day. And he was making like $45 a day. So
he's making 2 to 3 times as much as somebody working in retail.
Yeah.
And he's able to work for this company that takes care of him. And this kind of transfers back to like the craftsmanship, the quality of work, being able to say like our materials are ethically sourced, but also made, which is very different than China. I mean, I would definitely say that these have to be higher end products. You can't just, if you want to sell the cheapest stuff on Amazon and just price compete, don't go this route. Only go this route if you are going to have a premium product. So whatever product you find on Amazon, if it's selling for, $29, expect your hemp version to be $39 or whatever it is. It has to be a premium product. So what I would recommend to people is when you're looking at things on Amazon to potentially sell, ask yourself, is somebody who is like very environmentally conscious, or is kind of like a new age, someone who smokes weed, would they pay a premium for this product, or is it something that they even use or they even want? And I think if you are a environment conscious Burning Man pot smoker, you would love for your dog or cat to have a hemp collar, or you're a guitarist, and so these things really do make sense, while another product might not make sense.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a niche for everybody. You know what I mean? There are people who really love their dog and they really love their cat or whatever, and they're not willing like they never take their dog for a walk, so they're not willing to throw down on a very expensive leash and a very expensive collar and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that these products are expensive, but you're right. You know, we pay people, we get the highest quality hemp materials that we can find in Romania. That's not cheap. I mean, if you knew how much I was spending on materials, like it's a lot of dough, versus, you know, I can get the same thing in China. Like I can get this from China, but our business model is European quality, European people, like local products. You know what I mean? And so everything is sourced from Europe only.
I like it. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's your website, or what's the kind of the best way?
The website is actually naturalmaterials.pl. The website is totally not even done. I'm not going to lie, people. If you go to this website, you're going to be like, oh, this is a scam website. It's not even real. Like it's barely even there. It's pretty much just there so I can own the email, because people within the industry who know us, and they know how to get a hold of us. And we basically just have the website as a parking spot. So if you want to contact me directly, you can just email sales@naturalmaterials.pl. And if you really have a problem with it, you can make me a new website.
Man, this is the worst website I've ever seen.
It's super bad. It's just it's a WordPress template with like a hemp field on top.
Yeah.
And like it literally basically says, I'm sorry, we're under construction, get over it.
So not that it really matters, but I would spend an hour and just throw a couple photos up.
I know.
You know, maybe have a proper contact us page or something.
It's true. I'm not gonna lie.
But
I've slacked on that.
What's more important is I know you're real. I can see these products in front of me. These are real. I'll take a photo of these and I'll put it on the show notes of this episode so you guys can see it for yourself that, you know, he's actually making real hemp material. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And for everyone who has been leaving new reviews on iTunes, thank you guys so much. This podcast has been growing insanely fast because of your support. So please tell your friends about this podcast. Please share it. Please go to iTunes and leave a review. And I'll see all of you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus, How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.